Hi everyone, it's me, Andrea from Andy's Corner, and I'm so glad that you've joined me today for today's episode. It is full of craziness and bad choices and God's amazing provision. So, chapter 16, we just left off where God made a covenant with Abram, saying that you will have as many descendants as the sand on the seashore. That's a lot of descendants. And here we are at this point where Sarai is thinking she's going to be having these descendants, but she's having a hard time getting pregnant. So she tries to take things into her own control, and that's where things go wrong, like usual. Okay, chapter 16 of Genesis. Here we go. Now, Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, "The Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and be with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her." And Abram agreed with Sarai's proposal. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian servant, and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. Now, pause. There is a lot going on even in that paragraph. So first, Sarai does recognize the Lord has prevented me from having children. Yeah, because God has a timing that he has. He wants to have it all in his timing. But she can't be patient enough to wait for the Lord's timing. So she takes matters into her own hands and controls the situation by giving her female servant to her husband. Do you think that the Lord approves of that? I don't think so. And similar to the sin of Adam and Eve, when Eve said, "Hey, Adam, try this," when they both knew that they were not supposed to eat of the forbidden fruit. Hey, Adam said, "Okay." And then the same situation here. Sarai told Abram, "Hey, Adam, try this." And Abram said, "Okay." Even though when God told Abram that he would give him descendants, he specifically meant through Sarai and Abram together, their lineage. And people just mess things up. Now, I do want to mention that during this time in the Near East culture, it was common for women who could not bear children to give their servants to their husbands to bear children for them, because they kind of like whatever they owned became theirs. So if the servant had children, it was technically the wife's child, even though that is not what God intended. And so when Sarai didn't see God blessing her womb, instead of waiting on God, she decided to take things into her own hands and do what was normal in that culture. Friends, sometimes our culture can be very enticing, but we must be patient and wait on God. So let's keep going. So Abram had relations with Hagar and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress with contempt. Then Sarai said to Abram, "This is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now she's pregnant and she treats me with contempt. The Lord will show you who's wrong, you or me." Now, again, Sarai, it was your idea. And now she's saying, "It was your fault, Abraham. How about it's both of your faults? And how about you both are sinning? How about that?" And Hagar was sinning to be treating her uh, mistress, I guess. No, not mistress. Sorry, mistress. Treat her mistress Sarai with contempt. That's not okay. So Abram replied, "Look, she's your servant, so deal with her as you see fit." Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. Now, friends, this just keeps getting worse. Sarai sinned, then Abraham sinned, then Hagar sinned, then Sarai sinned again by treating her so poorly, so much so that she ran away. Then the angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness, along the road to Shur. The angel said to her, "Hagar, Sarai's servant, Where have you come from, and where are you going?" "I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai," she replied. The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her authority." Then he added, "I will give you more descendants than you can count." And the angel of the Lord also said, "You are now pregnant and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears, for the Lord has heard your cry of distress. This son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone who will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all his relatives." Now, to this day, that is basically true. So, what we call now the Muslims of today, their forefather, Muhammad's lineage goes back to Ishmael. And Abram, as we know, his lineage becomes the Israelites, which is today's Jewish people. And for the last 4,000 years, the Jewish people and Muslims have had discord, and they've been fighting against each other for that long. And so what God said actually happened, and it starts right here. And he prophesied that Ishmael's descendants would continue to fight with one another. And they have. Thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord, who had spoken to her. She said, "You are the God who sees me." She also said, "Have I truly seen the one who sees me?" So that well was named Bir Lahai Roy, which means well of the living one who sees me. It can still be found between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar gave Abram a son, and Abram named him Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. Now, another thing, where do you see God in this chapter? Now, I wanted to tell you this. This is the angel of the Lord. It says, the angel of the Lord came to see her. And it says, the angel of the capital Lord, Lord. When this term is used, it's usually referring to Christ pre-incarnation, meaning before he became on earth as a baby. This is him coming as the angel of the Lord. So Christ, this is a Christ appearance, also known as a Christophany. So I love that he says here, God heard you in your time of distress. He sees you. And folks, that's what I want to remember for me today, is that when I'm in a time of distress, to remember that I can cry out to God and he hears me and he sees me and he will come through for me. He will show up for me. Another thing that this teaches me is about the sin of man. When we know that God has his own timeline, we should not try to take things into our own hands and do things the way we think they should be done. Because clearly it messes things up and it can cause fighting for generations. No, but your sin can cause a ripple effect and affect so many other people. So friends, be patient, wait on God's timing, and trust that he hears you and he sees you. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and join me next time when we finally get to see Abram become Abraham. And yes, I could finally say Abraham. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.